Hello, I'm Leyla Kazim, and in this edition of the Food Programme, we're following the meteoric rise of the pistachio nut, why they've got so popular, and how it's affecting farming and the communities who have treasured them for centuries.
Pistachios is like, for me, it's lux. It's the luxury item, it elevates everything. It's a treat, whatever you have.
So this is just 100% pure pistachio.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So we bring them from Gaziantep. Best quality, not just saying this because I work here.
It is American pistachios that we are eating in Tesco, in Sainsbury's, in Waitrose. American pistachios are everywhere.
Especially in Turkey, it is not affordable anymore for working class, especially because the price is quite high.
Pistachios in particular sit at, kind of a interesting crossroads of ag, consumer trends, geopolitics even. It's very complex and exciting market to cover.
As food crazes go, the pistachio trend seems to be sticking around. No longer simply a deliciously Moorish snacking nut or niche ice cream flavour, chefs and food companies are now trying it in anything and everything. Chocolate bars, cakes, donut fillings. You can buy it as a spread, in a cheesecake, in your latte. I could go on and on. So, why are they so much in demand now? And what happens to an ingredient when the world seems to fall in love with it? But first, what about this latest pistachio obsession?
We got a Dubai chocolate cheesecake.
It's the messiest one, but it has the thickest kanafa filling, and I'm here for that.
Here, are you thirsty? Dubai chocolate shake.
Look at that, that is absolutely jam-packed with pistachio kanafa, and the chocolate is really thick.
Dubai chocolate began as a social media trend in late 2023, which started a rush on bars of chocolate that were filled with pistachio cream and kanafa pastry.
This one is one of my favourites so far.
Middle Eastern flavours brought together in a way Western diners instantly got on board with.
We have Dubai chocolate, what, sushi?
Although also grown in southern Europe and the US, pistachios have long been associated with the Middle East. For thousands of years, they've been cultivated in Iran, Turkey, Iraq and Syria. And they also grow wild in rocky mountainous areas of Afghanistan, Jordan, Israel and Lebanon. The nuts, actually the seeds, develop from the tree's flowers inside small, bright red, berry-like fruits or drupes. As they ripen, they dry and split open, revealing the hard shell with the green seed inside.
They're stunning. The most beautiful colour, like a bright, hot pink.
Oh my gosh, I've never seen photos!
I use the internet.
I'm in the kitchen of Itamar Srulovich and Sarit, married chefs who are known for their Middle Eastern cooking.
There's coffees there. I don't know if anyone wants sugar. There's very apt pistachio brownies, just to be like,
oh yes,
very in keeping.
Oh look! Sarit and Itamar grew up in Israel and moved to London in 2004. They set up their first restaurant, Honey & Co, in 2012. They now have 3 restaurants, a deli. They've published several cookbooks and their recipes regularly appear in the papers. And today, they have agreed to teach me something about pistachios.
Okay, let's work. Let's do stuff.
Tell me, what are we doing today? What are you making?
We're gonna make pistachio pastes, but 2 types. So a savory pistachio paste, like a tahini, and then we're gonna serve it with some really beautiful seasonal greens that we've just blanched. And then we're gonna use the same pistachios, but make a sweet kind of pistachio paste, like the very famous Dubai chocolate thing. We're gonna mix it into some baked kadaif.
So savoury and sweet.
Savoury and sweet from the same beginnings.
Fabulous.
The one thing you do want is a beautiful spice grinder, if you can. You can do this in a food processor if you have a nice strong one.
And these pistachios don't have shells on. So
No.
did you buy them like this?
I did buy them shelled already. You can, of course, shell them. I do have a jar of... But these I would say are more snacking ones. Look, they're delicious.
Yeah.
Try one of those.
The Greek ones, they're amazing.
So you've got pistachios in shell, and you would say these are more for snacking.
These are for snacking because it slows you down.
Yeah.
You know, you have to open the shell.
You need to do some work.
Yes. But anyway, these are shelled. and they're what's called here purple pistachios because the skin has got a slight purple kind of tinge to it. Obviously, the actual nut is still green.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask, because sometimes when I've bought quite posh pistachios, they were totally green.
So that's a pistachio that hasn't actually ripened. So you know how that shell, you could just crack it open because it's already cracked. So those have reached full maturity and the shell starts to crack. And that's when they start to go to like this kind of off color. The really bright green ones are ones that have been picked before that shell cracks open. And they need to be plied open with these like crazy pliers. They're much more expensive. Their flavor's much milkier. And from our experience in traveling in Turkey, they're the only ones really used in Turkey. So these ripe ones just don't seem to be around cattle fodder.
Wow.
But then, of course, there's like a difference. If you're buying them roasted, their color's always darker. I would personally never really buy roasted. Just roast your own. It only takes
I like the salt roasted that you get with the shell. I like those.
Yeah, but they can be quite a bit darker and mixed in their like freshness. And it's easy enough to roast them. You just literally put them in an oven at like 170 for 8 to 10 minutes and you're good. So better to roast as and when. And if you have space in your freezer, better to keep them in the freezer.
Okay.
All right.
Please, Sarit, let's see.
Let's blitz some stuff. We're going to blitz some of these into there. So when you make a tahini, you always need to start by kind of, any tahini just basically means ground. So whether it's sesame tahini or an almond tahini or a pistachio tahini, it means you grind. So you want to start just with your zest and garlic and salt, blitz it again. Then we're going to add the lime juice and then some olive oil.
And so do you have any memories of pistachio being in your life as a kid? Would they be...
Like the luxury nut, because they're expensive.
It's for the grown-ups.
Really?
Yeah.
It's the grown-ups nut. So it's definitely like the thing that you would get when your fancy guests are coming.
Yeah, and also kind of like, I don't know, in maybe not in your family, but in Jerusalem, there was always kind of like, because the nice pistachios are from Haleb, from Aleppo, which you couldn't get directly in Israel because it was Syria. They weren't trading. So when you get like the pistok halabi, the good stuff, it was kind of like, don't ask questions, like how did it come from? But that's really, really amazing pistachios.
And could you tell the difference?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So we blitz again. You see already the color is changing as soon as we added the juice. And we're going to add
and a lighter colour.
And that's it. And then we taste for seasoning. So it's quite fast to make.
And what would you have this with if someone was making this at home?
Today we're going to do it with a whole load of blanched vegetables because like asparagus and broccoletti and green beans and everything's in high season. Wow. And it works so well together. But also really beautiful with like a roast chicken. Please try. Roast chicken or spread on a sandwich with goat's cheese. It's like a kind of pistachio-y pesto, but really vibrant. No kind of herbs added here because you want to keep that kind of pure flavor.
Super. Delicious.
I think like roasted root vegetables would be amazing. Like, carrots or parsnips or fresh radishes, like everything dippy would work really well here.
Radishes, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Just anything.
Anything like that you
carrots,
just would dip. It's like a dip for a party. And actually one of the dishes we also do is adding some crumbled feta to this and blitzing it again and making gritezme. Gritezme is like a Turkish pistachio feta kind of dip.
Wow. I mean, how much do you use pistachio in the restaurants? Is it...
So much.
Really?
Like we order in 10 kilos and we would probably order that twice a week. So I would say like 20 kilos a week. Yeah.
And in savoury and sweet dishes?
Yes.
So why do you use them so much?
We love them. No, the colour's great. They roast really well and give a really good crunch on savoury things. They're really beautiful on desserts and they kind of speak the language of desserts of the Middle East. I think it's like
I also feel that pistachios is like immediate, for me it's luxe. It's the luxury item. It elevates everything. It's a treat, whatever you have. Because it is sort of, yes, delicious, beautiful, but actually quite expensive as well, for compared to other things. So it is, an element of elevating something that could have been maybe quite workaday.
And are there any key flavours that pistachio particularly works well with?
Yes. Yes, completely. Like all the limey, lemony, fruity things. Yeah, all the citrus.
Yeah.
Oranges, like really, really well. It kind of, something about the like, I don't know if it's like a slight acidity and creaminess somehow.
Lime in particular, I think, really pops it. Yeah.
For sure.
Also, all of the roasted flavors like chocolate, coffee, caramel, all of this sort of, this kind of like neighborhood, I feel pistachios really work with.
So where do you get your pistachios from?
Mostly Turkey. Some are Californian when Turkey gets a bit of shortages, or sadly when war affects trade paths and stuff like that. But that seems to be the biggest exporter at the moment. It used to be Iran. It's very hard to get hold of the Iranian ones at the moment. That you can see the Californian pistachios very clearly. They're much bigger. They have much more water that they feed into their crops, and everything is much bigger and much plumper.
Yeah, but I'm not throwing shade on Californian pistachios. Are really good.
Oh, I was gonna ask.
Yeah, I think they're really good. Also, it's really consistent supply, and freshness is key. So if you know that you're getting fresh pistachios, then you sleep well at night. I do.
Itamar Srulovich and Sarit Packer of Honey & Co. We'll go back to their kitchen for the sweet pistachio recipe shortly. Itamar jokes about anxiety over pistachio deliveries, but there may be a kernel of truth there. Demand is high, prices have risen, and forecasts for this year's harvests are lower than normal. Nick Moss, a nuts market reporter at Expana, a large price reporting and intelligence agency, told me more.
So we do monthly, what we call price assessments for 2 different sizes of U.S. pistachios. In the last year, prices have been up about 20%. The latest assessment is high as it's been in 10 years.
Wow. So can you tell us which countries currently grow the most pistachios?
So historically, your top 3 origins have been the U.S., Iran, and Turkey. The current market, the U.S. has been, the predominant producer and exporter.
And this crazy social media explosion for Dubai chocolate, did that create extra demand?
I hesitate to attribute big trend changes in a complex market to one single thing. Dubai chocolate was certainly a factor, but tree nuts are not a fast developing product. It takes a decision several years before to plant and start farming those trees before you're actually getting fruit to market. So it's been an ongoing trend for a number of years that Dubai chocolate seems to have been a part of, and, was likely also a contributing factor to some of the further product innovation. But there's been a fairly long history with industry and product promotion from sellers, especially in the U.S., but further abroad as well.
While demand for everything pistachio is right now really high, the International Nut and Dried Fruit Council's latest projections suggest quite a shift in production. It says it expects to see world production reduce by more than 36% in 26-27.
The primary drivers of that are pistachios naturally follow what they call an alternate bearing cycle. You'll have 1 year that they call an on year, that's a higher yielding, bigger producing year. And then the next year, the trees are in more of a recovery phase and tend to yield lower volumes. In 2025, Turkey was on an off year, while the U.S. and Iran had larger production values. So this coming year in 2026, Turkey should be, on more of its on-year pattern, while Iran and the U.S. are on their off-year. And then the other layer to that is there's been some adverse weather experiences in, the early development phase, with Iran in, a fairly sustained drought and sustaining some high temperatures. In California, there was some extreme heat during that critical pollination phase that affected nut set, and has been the primary contributing factors to why those values are so significantly lower than even what was expected for that off year.
And then in terms of Iran, you mentioned Iran is one of the biggest producers of pistachios. What impact do you see the war having on production there?
The industry sources that, I speak with, they've reported that generally the primary obstacle has been logistics rather than production. With the limitation in sea transportation in and out of the region, Iran in particular has had layered obstacles with, the limited customer base due to trade and geopolitical relationships, internet and communication challenges early in the year with the civil unrest, and then, now the actual freight challenges of moving the product. It's been a series of obstacles there, but from what I've had reported, there is still product moving. It's just generally been restricted to overland routes.
And the demand for pistachios is leading to other countries now starting to plant them in serious amounts. What countries is this happening in? And is this affecting the market in general?
Production areas, have been said to be increasing in a number of different countries. Spain is a notable one. Australia, I've even heard Argentina has been reported as adding some orchards. There seems to be the intent to bolster up production. But at the same time, in some of your more mature markets, there's, anticipated to be some moderation to that as the industry gets into maturity.
I was just thinking, it must be so hard for farmers. They see demand increase and these trends like Dubai chocolate, and so they think that's the way the market's going to continue. So let me invest in planting all of these trees, which take years before you're going to start getting a good harvest. And then what if everything changes by then?
It's a significant investment and, significant decision to, enter into, such operations. I speak with a lot of almond producers and handlers, and, one note that's been made about California is, almond acreage has actually been decreasing, and at the same time pistachio acreage has been increasing. Agricultural land, if you think about it as a commodity, is not something that's growing in supply. So the idea that pistachio acreage may be increasing in one area, it's most often going to be, at the sacrifice of acreage from something else. So that consideration is something for water usage as well.
That is interesting. It's like, what's the priority crop? We'll talk more about Iran and America and the background to how California became the dominant pistachio producer a little later in the program. For now, though, it's back to Honey & Co.
So, for the sweet one, we continue blitzing the pistachios, and this time we don't really add much.
In South London, Sarit is showing me how to make a sweet dish from the ground up pistachios, one that is similar to the filling you get inside all those Dubai chocolates. To the already blitzed, shelled, raw pistachios, she adds some vanilla.
So whenever I use a vanilla pod, I keep the shells and kind of semi-dry them out because there's loads of flavor in them. And I'm just going to... And here we don't want to add any liquid because what we want to do is really let those oils come out.
So what are you making now? You're making a sweet
pistachio cream like you would get in like a jar. You could use it in a base of cheesecakes and bake like a pistachio cheesecake. You can use it as filling for cookies. So a couple of tablespoons of caster sugar. And what we want to do is blitz until the oils come together.
Chatting to Sarit and Itamar, it is clear they really do value pistachios. But then they told me about a visit to Turkey a few years ago, researching one of their books. It took them to the city of Gaziantep, which totally opened their eyes to a whole new level of pistachio appreciation, and one that goes back centuries.
We wanted to go because it is one of the food places of this world. And the pistachios are, like, they don't eat other nuts. Their main drag, they call it Baklava Street, and it's just kind of like one baklava parlor after another. And the pistachios are insane. They have like grades of pistachios that it's like, try this. This is like the highest grade. It never ever sees the light of day. And then like something in your mouth explodes. And like the stuff that we get, they'll be like...
So most of us, normal people, have never experienced
honestly,
an excellent pistachio.
We hadn't until we went there. And this was only in 2019.
But
just
what
beautiful.
makes the pistachio so good quality? Is it like the variety of tree? Is it the
It's just really fresh. It hasn't gone from anywhere to anywhere.
And do you remember we went to, there's like a really famous restaurant, Imam Charjash, that they have a bakery as well. And they showed us their like pistachio stores. And we're just like, yeah, it's going to be some shelves. But it's like big like stone storerooms with, I don't know, like tons of pistachios, and that they're so particular, and it's kind of like, this is where our pistachios are.
So in this part of Turkey, do they use pistachio in the cooking a lot? Like in the savoury?
Not as much. They do a fistically, I can't pronounce it really well. It's like a lamb kebab with pistachios inside. It is really delicious. And they'll use a bit of sprinkling on kind of salads, but not
Not
in the
they
way that
eating
we
it? How are they eating it?
all in baklavas, but there's like so much sweets. And because it's such a fertile part of Turkey, they have loads of cream or kaymak, like their double cream or clotted cream thing. So all their baklavas are like cream and pistachio stuffed. So they're not just nut. And they do a lot of like milky rice puddings where that's the topping and stuff like that. Really, really indulgent sweets.
Wow. It's like a spoonable green pistachio paste.
This is some kadayif already baked, but you can use any kind of cookie or phyllo that you bake and crumble. So kadayif pastry is like a kind of strand pastry, a bit like shredded wheat. It's already kind of cooked when it's made because it's made onto a hot plate. But then if you bake it some more with some sugar and butter, or even just on its own, it will bake into this kind of crispy crumb thing. All you do is like mix enough into the pistachio to coat it. Tasting time again.
Oh no.
Oh no. We must taste again.
Needless to say, it was delicious. Crunchy, sweet, creamy, a sprinkling of salt at the end that gave it this bliss point flavour. Sweet, but not too sweet, with a slight savoury hit. I mean, it's no surprise pistachio has taken off in such a big way with the industrial food companies. So what impact is this intense rush on pistachios having on the communities who've been eating them for years? Oh, it's the nut shop. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, it's taken me to my trips to Turkey with my family immediately. We're sort of in Little Turkey here, aren't we?
Yes.
You know, green lanes. I've eaten some great meals around here.
So I call it Chinatown for Turkish people.
This is Rob Tao, Secretary of the Green Lanes Traders Association. Green Lanes is a long road running through Haringey in North London, known for its many Turkish and Middle Eastern businesses. Rob's going to introduce to me some of the people who work here, and he's brought along local journalist and baker Timur Ekincen, who is originally from Turkey and still visits often. Timur points out several shops to me that have the name Antep in their signs, telling us that they are connected with the Gaziantep region of Turkey, the city that Sarit and Itamar told me about visiting. We pop into one place called Antepzade Patisserie. Oh, look at this. Oh my goodness me. I think that's a Dubai
Look
chocolate
at that.
thing.
Look at
Yeah.
that.
They call me JJ here. As I have a Turkish name, sometimes it's quite hard to pronounce. We sell all sort of desserts, baklava, puddings, ice creams, birthday cakes, biscuits, künefe, katmer. We have everything, all sort of different desserts.
We'll share photos on social media of the cakes, desserts, and of course the baklava, those crispy, rich, sweet pastries made from layers of phyllo dough soaked in honey or syrup and filled with bright green pistachios. A real feast, and so many with that signature green colour.
So a lot of our desserts, we throw some pistachio on the top as decoration. However, some of our desserts are actually made from pistachio. For example, this one is pistachio milk cake. It's literally soaked in milk and then cream and pistachio all over the top, which is our most selling dessert, I would say. That one, we call it soğuk baklava in Turkish, milky baklava. And again, baklava soaked in milk, got chocolate powder all over the top and pistachios. It's also got pistachios inside as well.
And then I'm seeing a tower of profiteroles. Is the pistachio on this just for decoration, or is it inside as well?
We have it inside as well. And as decoration, we use pistachio as decoration in our desserts.
JJ, or Jeren, to introduce her by her real name, tells us all the pistachios used here come from Gaziantep. So this is the
pistachio milk cake, Trelice.
It's like a sponge.
Yes.
But a moist sponge because of the milk.
With milk.
It's very soft. It's like a mousse almost. Desserts are a big thing in Turkey, and especially in Gaziantep. But Timur explains the increasing price of pistachios is having an impact.
For the last couple of years, pistachio has a little bit changed its type of consumers. Baklavas is not affordable anymore for working class especially because its price is quite high. And most of the families, households prefer to have, for example, sunflower seeds rather than pistachios because it's quite expensive.
Yeah.
And I have been to Antep 7-8 months ago. When I want to buy some baklava for a family who lives in Mersin, they advised me to go to different shops. One of them do baklava with the pure pistachios, which is quite expensive. I think it was 2,000 Turkish lira per kilo, which is roughly 30 pounds. And the other one was a couple of pounds. And I asked, I said, what is the difference? I don't know whether true or not, but I've been told that one of the producers or shops use peas to give the green color to the baklava. But it's not obviously pure pistachio or whatever. And I saw that shop was busier than the other shops which use the original pistachios. I mean, pistachio is still something Turkish, but it's more one of the symbol of middle class or rich.
A symbol of the middle classes or the rich. The Turkish government has laws designed to protect the recipe for baklava and now has a website where it names brands that have been found to be breaking the rules, including by using dyes, spinach and peas to imitate the pistachio colour. With pistachios seemingly so important in Middle Eastern food culture, I wanted to understand more about the history of how the US should become the world's major producer. Anna Ansari is an Iranian-American food writer. She was brought up in the US with an Iranian father and American mother. Before moving to London, she worked as an international trade and customs attorney. Her book, Silk Roads, A Flavour Odyssey with recipes from Baku to Beijing, traces through recipes and stories of how ingredients and cuisines have travelled across continents for centuries.
Pistachios are definitely my favorite nut. My pistachio memories are so tied to my father's trips to Iran. And I think a lot of diaspora people recognize this from their own cultures as well. You go back home, right? And you come back with these suitcases that are just packed full of the things that you love and that you miss and that you want to share with your sort of adopted country and your family there. And for us, it was like these suitcases were basically filled with either carpets, pistachios, dried mulberries, or like saffron, or all of them, always all of them, frankly. So I just grew up eating pistachios and knowing that these were something that we had in an Iranian household, but, you know, not outside of this kind of community, because between the fact they weren't even prior to the U.S. embargo massively popular in America, because of the trade sanctions and political climate in the 80s, you really didn't get them in America outside of these Iranian pockets. I just remember my dad bringing them, and they were so good. They were like salty and delicious, creamy as well, and just fun. I think especially as a child, you get to like open it up and unwrap this little present.
And so you write about the trade routes that connect food, but there's a story behind pistachios. Could you maybe explain to us a little bit about how the US became the world's biggest producer?
Yeah, I mean, I read about the trade of food. I am a customs and trade lawyer by training. My life has been entwined with trade for so long, and happily now it's from a food writing perspective. What's interesting to me about pistachios, you know, you look back in antiquity over the Silk Roads, the Roman, the Greek Empire, the idea of Alexander the Great, you know, transporting these goods across the Mediterranean, across Asia, but also Pistachio trade is really, to me, becomes really interesting in the 70s. And it is the modern trade. And there's actually like trade law and politics that I find to be so illuminating in terms of how we got to where we are with pistachios in the world today, which is to say, yes, the U.S. is the largest producer of pistachios by like a lot. I think they control 60 to 65% of all trade, all export and production. Iran is number 2, but like there's a big drop. It's like 10 or 12%. And then Turkey is like a little bit less. But Iran used to be number 1, used to be top dog in pistachio exportation, production, and consumption for hundreds of years, basically. So it was 1979 when the U.S. put out the initial embargo on Iranian imports, including pistachios, during the hostage crisis. President Carter's move was to like shut down all trade with Iran. No more pistachios. And that kind of went on and off during the 80s. Eventually, the embargo was lifted, but the trade tariffs were not.
The tariffs on Iranian pistachio imports came about in 1986 after the trade embargo had been lifted and after an investigation found that Iran was selling pistachios into the US below the market value.
We put a 241% tariff on pistachios from Iran. And meanwhile, the Californians, basically over the course of the 80s and 90s, this is the small industry that basically exploded. And this corresponded with a lot of just politicking. So it's this kind of more modern notion of trade and how industry lobbying can really change what ends up on our plate and in our, Dubai chocolate.
Iran, Turkey, and the US are kind of the big guns in production. But we're now seeing totally new regions developing big pistachio plantations, of which Argentina is an example. Talk to me about this.
I mean, the number of hectares of pistachio farms have quintupled, which I love that word, since 2020 in Argentina, mostly concentrated in the San Juan province, which is next to the border with Chile, just north of Mendoza. I'm wondering to myself, why are they doing this? There's a water crisis in this region. It's one of the most arid areas of Argentina. And then, Leyla, then I saw that China recently approved the importation of nuts from Argentina. They had a ban on nut importation. And obviously it takes a while for a tree to mature and then to be able to sort of commercially export it. But I was like, oh, this makes sense to me.
So you talked about some areas, you mentioned close to Mendoza, which is so famous for its wine. Yeah. Are they just sharing the land between these two major crops?
Well, that's what I'm kind of curious too. I read someone saying, well, people aren't drinking as much and they're wanting to eat more healthily, and nuts is one of the things. But it is also one of the driest areas in Argentina. And so there are also questions as to whether this is necessarily the most environmentally efficient way of using this land. But I guess there's a number of different irrigation methods that people are really experimenting with because they want to make it better. But, unlike the biggest pistachio producer in the U.S., no Argentinian farms have basically their own personal water bank. There's this one company in America that does have that.
Did I read somewhere that when pistachios came out of Iran, they were originally in a bright red color?
Yes, I'd forgotten all about it, which is funny because I think of that as a coloring for American pistachios. Originally, the Middle Eastern, Turkish, and Iranian importers would dye their pistachios red to sort of cover up any sort of discoloration. Sometimes they look beautiful, sometimes they don't. And so they're like, okay, well, if we turn everything red, this is going to be an appealing thing. And then the trade sanctions embargo happens in 79, and pretty much over the course of the 80s, there's no Iranian pistachios in America. But in the late 70s, the Californians had started to dye their pistachios red because they were like, oh, we're going to be like their imported Iranian ones.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So in the 80s and 90s, when you'd see red pistachios, they were Californian pistachios. But the red used to come off on your fingers.
Wow. I don't think I've ever seen red dyed pistachios.
No? Oh my gosh. They literally were everywhere. I had forgotten all about it.
Anna Ansari, Iranian-American food writer and author of Silk Roads, A Flavor Odyssey with recipes from Baku to Beijing. There are alternatives to US, Turkish and Iranian nuts. Pistachios, of course, are grown in many other countries. One importer I met a few years ago for the food programme has set up a business with a focus on supporting farmers who are using agroforestry methods to grow nuts.
I'm Charlie Tibbett, founder of Food and Forest, and we're a quality nut supplies company funding UK agroforestry.
Okay, Charlie, it's nice to see you again in your storage unit, stroke shop, because you've still got some things that people can buy at the front. Yeah. And I think we chatted 2 years ago. Talking about nuts.
Yeah, we just opened the shop at that point over at Borough, talking all about walnuts, hazelnuts, cob nuts, haven't we? Yeah. My background was in ecology, so did postgraduate studies in that, and then that was in 2017. A lot of the academic literature at that time was talking about the benefits of agroforestry, how it combines the kind of best of both worlds between maintains the yields, maintains the efficiencies of modern farming methods, but then really addresses some of the most kind of salient environmental issues around soil erosion, around nitrate runoff, particularly in the health of our rivers. So agroforestry at base is about integrating trees into a farming method, but that's quite nebulous, quite vague, and so we wanted to focus on two specific types. So one was wood pasture, which is where you combine fruit or nut producing trees with grazing ruminants underneath, so sheep, cows. And then another type, which was alley cropping, so it's just where you combine fruit or nut producing trees and then crop the alley between them. So you have a 30-metre space in which you can have oats, barley, wheat, and then you crop those lines of trees with the cereals in between.
As well as many other types of nut, Food and Forest sell pistachios, both in their shells for snacking and shelled, sold in bulk to bakeries. Some of these come from southern Spain, and others are protected designation of origin pistachios from Sicily, called Bronte pistachios.
And so are your suppliers exclusively agroforestry type farmers?
No, because the Bronte pistachios, for example, are farmed on a volcano and they can't mechanise, and the only thing that will really grow there is these pistachios. But where we can, we certainly do. So say, for example, there's pistachios that we get in from Spain, they have grazing sheep underneath them. So that's a massive benefit down there in Andalusia. So we work with a great association down there in Andalusia called the Almendralejo Association. They basically go to existing pistachio and almond farmers and say, hey, we can provide you this market through us, through there's a chap in Denmark doing a similar thing, a kind of network of like-minded individuals and companies within Europe who will provide a market specifically for this agroforestry produce. And it can convince farmers to take the leap.
I know a lot of pistachios are produced in the US and also Turkey. You don't get any of your pistachios from these countries?
We exist to be a kind of antidote to that commodified market. We find that our clients really respond to the fact that we have that provenance, we have that link with the farmers, and we can, through their purchase, we can use the leverage to encourage methods which are beneficial and kind of be at the forefront of that. You know, I don't think they're bad, but it's just about bringing the different options for people.
Could you just explain an overview of the difference in how, say, industrially produced pistachios in California are farmed and how the pistachios from your supply in Andalusia are farmed? What are the main differences?
Yeah, well, there's two really principal ones. The one is the use of irrigation, and the one is how the understory is treated, and they're connected. So in California, or mainstream generic monoculture pistachio farming, you would just keep the ground cover completely bare, and more than likely that's through the use of herbicide. So because typically any kind of ground cover is seen as competition for water and resources, you know, with good reason sometimes. Whereas what we're doing in Spain with the group down there is saying, well, hey, if you use a cover crop sensibly, or you kind of mix of barley and legumes, for example, you sow that after the harvest in the October, keep that on the land over the winter at the period where it's most at risk of soil erosion through the potential for, you know, drastic flooding, and then plough that in around about April. You don't suffer with, you know, an increase in competition with the tree, but you do have a host of benefits, as I referred to, around water retention and reducing soil erosion. And in that way, you don't have to irrigate. So those are the two big key differences.
Are the trees in Andalusia not irrigated at all?
No.
Isn't that amazing to think you can grow a thirsty tree in an environment like Andalusia and not have to irrigate it?
Yeah.
It just feels like that's the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it also kind of was the past as well, right? These mixed systems where you have, they're resilient because of the way in which they combine different things. So, say for example, when you graze the sheep underneath it as well, the organic matter from in that manure is going to add to the water retaining capacity there. I mean, we went on a site visit in July a couple of years back, and it's just noticeable on an anecdotal level. You go there and you feel the kind of, it's really humid. It's really humid when you go there about the end of a really hot, long summer's day, and it was noticeable. But it's not just anecdotal. There's also, why I really admire the group there is they're working closely with, I think, the University of Granada, a chap called Miguel Angel, to get a strong evidence base, and there's water meters everywhere. So it's not just, hearsay or feeling. It's also about these key objective measures.
Charlie Tebbett from Food and Forest. Pistachios are now mainstream. Okay, maybe not the Bronte ones, but their green colour, their flavour, that crunch, they've never been more in demand. It means, though, that now, in some places, they're becoming unaffordable for the communities who have valued them for centuries. Because after all, pistachios go much further back, and they have long been a symbol of something deeper. Before we finish, let's hear about that from Iranian-American food writer Anna Ansari.
In Iran, it's also culturally like a symbol of joy and happiness, the pistachio. And I've spent a lot of time in China. I used to kind of study Mandarin, speak Mandarin, and I realized that the word for pistachio in Mandarin is happy nut. Joyful little fruit, 开心果, because he's smiling. Like they say that,
smiling.
Yeah, there's something so like special about it, but it really, really just an ancient nut that suddenly we're seeing everywhere. I saw an ad on TV the other day for a Shake Shack, Dubai Shake, and it was like, crack it like it's going to be a hot Dubai summer filled with pistachio, and I'm like, this is fascinating to me. As a kid, no one was eating pistachios. This was something that you'd find in this little immigrant enclave where we were eating it because people brought it over in our suitcases. And now it's just everywhere, and it's a testament to the deliciousness, but it is also a lot else going on there too.
Food writer Anna Ansari. And if you enjoyed this episode, do check out my other exploration into the world of nuts. Search for the food programme Nuts About Nuts on BBC Sounds. This episode was produced in Bristol for BBC Audio by Natalie Donovan and was presented by me, Leyla Kazim.
Silence in court. I'm Lucy Worsley, and in my brand new series, I'll be hearing about the women involved in some of history's most infamous legal battles. Women accused of murder, bigamy, and adultery, through to the shocking offence of not knowing their place. With a team of all-female detectives, I'll explore the lives at the centre of some extraordinary courtroom dramas, asking, has the justice system truly changed? Lady on Trial with Lucy Worsley from BBC Radio 4. Listen now on BBC Sounds.